My name is Ralph Lemon and I like to say I really like salmon but I love lamprey. You can find me looking for them in any given day. Stream, river, lake, or an ocean bay. Some people eat them raw but I cook them on my spit. I love them so much that I go into a fit. Even though salmon biologists don't like to admit, when it comes to anatomy this fish is legit. And here are all the wonderful lamprey partners and collaborators that I'd like to acknowledge. Without these people, this project would not have been possible. So you see Franklin Roosevelt staring at the lamprey and vice versa here. You know, Franklin Roosevelt has served for 4 terms, the longest in U.S. history, and I'm sure Donald Trump is trying to beat that. And you know, it's an amazing feat, but at the same time, you know, we need to acknowledge lamprey have been serving on this earth for 450 million years or possibly more, um, but they usually don't get the respect that they deserve. One of the things that's not really well known is, you know, lamprey are really nutritious. Just eating one lamprey, as you can see on the left graph here, that you can pretty much meet all the needs for vitamins, mineral, fatty acids. You know, some of the things like vitamin A, B12, omega-3 are really, really high, astronomically high. And you know, instead of one apple a day, maybe we ought to get one lamprey a day. And even compared to, you know, salmon, which we know is healthy, their nutritional values are even much higher. Lamprey, also known as Asum, is deeply rooted in many of the tribal cultures. You can see some of the historical photos here, but they were you know, historically dried and smoked, and really important part of their food source, medicine, and an important cultural icon. But in the same way, you know, animals, critters really depend on lamprey as well. There's a strong connection, and which we're you know, have lost in recent years, but there's still hope that, you know, this culture is still here and present, and we hope that the ecological connection will stay strong and present as well. Have you ever seen a bald eagle snatch a food from a sea lion? Well, here you go. Um, you know, just being a really fat, high, you know, nutritious food source, they're quite popular and sometimes called the bacon cheeseburger of the aquatic world. Now let's talk about assumed distribution. Historically, they used to go way upstream in the Upper Columbia and Snake River. These are some of the historical specimen collection points. King Basket Lake in the Upper Columbia, which is about 1,000 river mile from the mouth, and way up high in Snake River as well. But currently the anonymous passage ends at Chief Joseph and Hells Canyon dams. So that pretty much took out about half of their historical distribution. And you know, in these lower or these uppermost dams, the numbers, annual numbers, have ranged around 100 on average. So they're functionally extinct in these current upper distribution. Here are some examples of the threats that they face. So adult passage, you can see lamprey congregating in the weirs. They have a hard time passing really high velocity, especially when in combination with the 90-degree corners that are hard for them to attach to. Here I want to highlight some of the amazing things that lamprey can do. Although they're not a fast swimmer, they can cling and climb and rise above these vertical walls on a, you know, artificial surface as well as natural surface. You can see them leapfrogging each other, encouraging each other to go upstream. It's a really amazing feat. So we have started to take advantage of that unique swimming behavior. There's wetted walls that are installed like on the Yakima Basin and in other locations. There are also these 4-inch flexible tubes that have been proven to be effective in passing lamprey long distances, originated from California. And there's also, simple things like rounding corners is really helpful. It can go a long way for lamprey within the fish ladders. And then there's also pavement markers that we're starting to look at, which helps create a flow refuge for adults as they're climbing up a wetted wall, but they can also help, on the floor of fish ladders where flow is quite high. They can help as well. Juvenile passage has been mostly a black box, but in recent years a new miniature acoustic telemetry tag was designed and invented by the Pacific Northwest National Laboratory, and studies are planned for the next few years to really dive into the survival and passage issues for juvenile lamprey. So I only had time to quickly introduce some of the threats that they face: adult passage, juvenile larval passage, but there are many other threats that they face, and some are more well known and others still require a lot more research and understanding to know how to improve them. To cope with those various threats, many of the tribal entities have started adult translocation, where we bring adults from Lower Columbia hydro dams. We trap them using these PVC traps or mechanical traps, and then we basically give them a ride to upper Columbia Basin, mainly Yakima and other tributaries. So yeah, essentially they get a free ride, so they can circumvent these problematic dams. In the initial years, we started with only a few adults, I think 15, but gradually we have ramped up the effort to the point that there are about 1,000 to 1,500 adults that are translocated each year to cover all the Yakima Nation ceded lands mainly in the Washington area. Here's a map showing the presence of larval Pacific lamprey in the Yakima Basin prior to translocation. And here's a map showing how much the larval lamprey have expanded after translocation. You can see in the lamprey presence throughout the Yakima River and many of the tributaries in locations where we have translocated. The juvenile lamprey are the eyed metamorphose phase lamprey, and they didn't show up right away, but after about 5 to 6 years after translocation, we started to see a big jump in their numbers. At the lower Yakima Chandler facility, we have caught about 8,000, which is extrapolated likely around 200 to 400,000 juveniles. So there has been a big increase, about 45 to 90-fold increase on average. And then even in the screw traps and tributaries, we're seeing about 30,000 estimated juvenile outmigrants each year. And thanks to CRITFIC, using parentage-based tagging, we can look at where these juveniles are coming from based on the translocation adults, and we can see that the source really varies from a wide location. All of the different translocation streams seem to be contributing to these juveniles. And not only the source, we can also look at the age classes of these juveniles based on when they were released as adults. And you can see that it varies from age 2 to age 5, majority being 4 to 5 years old, which is a little less compared to some of the other basins like Snake River. And we also have started to see increases in adults, volitional adults coming back. Prosser Dam is one of the lowermost dam on Yakima River, and McNary is on the Columbia River, just downstream. And you can see in the initial years the bar graph representing Prosser Dam numbers are really low, but after translocation there has been a hike in the base level for adults. Some numbers have really increased, and but this number is still low compared to our goal and what we think historically existed in the Yakima Basin. We would like to go even further so we have sustainably harvestable numbers present. So is restoration of Asum possible? To that question, I would give a big yes. I think we have seen tangible results related to the larval and juvenile and adult lamprey. Numbers have started to increase. And also it's important to note that Yakima Subbasin is probably one of the most heavily impacted Columbia tributaries. It has many dams and irrigation canals and water quality and quantity issues. But despite that, numbers are certainly coming back. So if you can do it in the Yakima, I think it's possible in other places. But however, it's just the first step. We're really trying to get back to this historical biomass, as you can see from Willamette Falls here in 1913. There's the cultural connection that we're really trying to bring back, and the ecological connection. We still have a long ways to go. I want to end with a couple slides on perspectives. This is humanity's shortfall, tunnel vision. We tend to see single species, oftentimes salmon species and nothing else, but I think we need to acknowledge there are many other species that salmon are part of, and lamprey are certainly an important part of that. As Aldo Leopold said, we need to keep every cog in wheel. If we don't know how the bicycle works, it's probably not a good idea to remove those cogs and wheel, which represent lamprey. So I hope we can have a paradigm shift in how we envision restoration, which really requires bringing back all the pieces together. Here's our image of human evolution that we tend to think about, but we should look beyond this, see that we probably came from something that looked like a lamprey, and also think about it, the direction that we're heading. Maybe we're heading in a wrong direction. Wisdom, I think, is something that allows us to sustain life from generation to generation, and lamprey are a living example of that. I think they really have the wisdom that we need to learn from. In a sense, they're the Jedi Master, a great teacher, only if we learn how to understand that wisdom. 2022 is a very special year for lamprey. There's the Lamprey Summit 5 happening on December 13th, Portland, Oregon. We hope you can join, and also conservation agreement is getting updated, and we hope all of you can sign on as a signatory as well. Thank you for your attention. That's it. I ran out of time.